by the time this video goes up, it will be Carter's birthday. So we thought that we'd take a minute and kind of talk about him and our pregnancy. Well, yeah, I was the one that was pregnant, but yeah.
I was not.
Talk about our pregnancy and talk about losing him and how the last year has been for us. So my pregnancy with Carter was textbook, like it was just normal and everything was really good. About 6 weeks before we lost him, I hadn't really felt him move a ton, and so we went to the doctor and they did an ultrasound, they did a non-stress test, and he looked fine. A week and a half later, they said it looked like he had some enlarged areas of his heart, and so we went in for a fetal echo and his heart was fine. The week after, we just had a normal appointment, and the week after that, the doctor said, you're measuring a little bit smaller than you were last week, why don't you go in for an ultrasound? So we went in for an ultrasound the following week, and then 6 days later we went in for a 39-week appointment, and we had lost Carter. And it kind of, I don't know, like I think about that day a lot, and I can just remember everything so vividly. And I just remember, like, the doctor asked if I had felt him move, and I said no. And Brandon just kept saying, but you thought you felt him the other day, didn't you? And like it was true, and I thought that I had, but I just kept saying no. And so I think we were all kind of prepared for it. So the doctor tried to find his heartbeat and he couldn't, and then he went to the ultrasound room, where he waited for the ultrasound room to open for like
3 years.
It really felt like so long, but it was probably still like 15 minutes. But so then we went in there and there was no heartbeat. We had lost him. So we went to labor and delivery that evening. Like an hour later, we came home and packed up some of the stuff that we had out, like the pack and play and just some random baby stuff that was all around the house. And we went to labor and delivery, and it was really quiet, like nobody was out, it wasn't crazy or loud or anything, and so that was really nice. I think just that it could kind of be like calm. And I went in and wasn't dilated at all, so they had to give me Cytotec to get me started, and they said that it would probably be almost 24 hours before we had the baby, but my contractions started to progress, and by probably like 1 in the morning, I could really feel them a lot. And they started to get worse, and Brandon was of course like sleeping on his little couch, and I was just laying there with my finger next to the nurse's button like, should I press it? Should I not press it? And then around 5, I finally asked for the epidural. And I had told myself I wasn't gonna get it because I was afraid that when I'd ask for it, they'd be like, oh, you're at a 2. Like, are you sure you want it? But when I asked for it, I was at a 5. When they came back in and checked me an hour and a half later, I was at a 10 and my water had broke and it was time to go. So the doctor got there a little bit later, and I pushed for like, what, 5 minutes? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it was super quick.
It was super fast, yeah. And then Carter was there. And he is the cutest baby I've ever seen. He has lots of dark hair, really big feet. He was really skinny. He weighed 5 pounds, 15 ounces, and he was 20 inches long. And the doctor made a note that it looked like the umbilical cord kind of was blocked a little bit, but we weren't sure. And so we had a few hours with him, and then his body kind of started to deteriorate, and since they didn't have a cuddle cot, which is why we're doing our fundraiser, and so we had to say goodbye to him. And that was hard. That was really, really hard. And we left that night. So we had Carter at 8:51 in the morning, and we left around 5 o'clock that night, and my nurse wheeled me down to get meds, and the guy behind the counter said, oh, you're going home. And I was like, yep. And the nurse, she felt so bad. She was like, I'm so sorry. I called and like told them and everything. And so that was really hard. And it was really hard to come home to an empty house and to come home with no baby, because that's not the way that it's supposed to be. You're supposed to come home with a baby, and it was just us and our parents were here. So that was that. And then we buried Carter about a week and a half later, which was like sucky, obviously, but it was kind of nice just to know, like, okay, this is where he is, like we can come see him whenever we want to now. So basically that whole story of losing him and labor and everything. So
when we found out that we lost Carter, we had called both sets of our parents, and we had told both of them that we didn't want them to come down, and we're just kind of do things on our own. Neither set of parents listened to us, and they both came down. And so when we were in the hospital, they came to our house and they kind of cleaned up a lot of the baby stuff. We had it all over our house. We were 39 weeks. We were preparing to have a baby at home. And so they cleaned up a lot of it and put it up in the nursery, which was really sweet and really nice of them. But as you know, I think it was maybe a day or two later, like, we opened up the nursery door. We didn't want it to be closed. We didn't like it being closed.
Well, even like, so my mom shut the nursery door, and then the next day you were in there putting stuff away, and I went in there and sat with you. And I think we kept it closed while our family was here.
Is that what we did?
I don't remember for sure, but I think it was just like, we didn't want them to be so sad, you know?
Yeah.
But sorry, keep going.
No, so that's just one thing I remember is looking back, they had kind of rounded up all of the things for him and kind of hidden off in the nursery, which is nice. But we ended up kind of opening it back up, and like you guys have already seen, like, we are in that room quite often. We are in the nursery almost every day. Like, I go in there almost every day, at least open the blinds.
Yeah.
If nothing else, but the doors are always open and stuff because, like Caitlin said, our house is really quiet. I mean, obviously it was this quiet beforehand, but we were expecting it to be loud, and so it's really quiet, but then it was just really quiet and awkward with the door closed.
Well, and it was almost like we were trying to pretend like it didn't happen, you know, and I don't feel like that's not the way that I want to treat it. Like, yeah, it sucks that we lost him, but he's still our son, and we still carried him for 9 months. Like, it happened.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. I didn't work for about 2.5 months after we lost him, and that was really nice. Brandon had 2 weeks off. It was technically like his paternity leave, but it's essentially bereavement. And so he was home for 2 weeks, and that was good. Like, it's so weird how, I mean, like, I've been to funerals for my great-grandparents, and, you know, everyone, as sad as they are, there's still so much life to celebrate. Like, you know, older people have lived their lives, and you make those memories. And it was interesting to me how, even in the midst of our grief, Brandon and I could still smile and laugh with one another. Usually the laughter ended in tears, because then we'd be like, why are we laughing? This is stupid. We should be sad. But like, I've written a lot about how much joy has come from our loss as well. And that sounds really bad, but like, he made us a family, and our parents gave us really sweet gifts that night, the night that we came home. And my mom, I remember her specifically saying, we wanted to give you guys something that will remind you of the day that you became a family. And that's really what happened. Even though it's just still me and Brandon and the cats, you know, we feel so much more complete. And I don't think we're done, but we feel more whole than we did before. But anyway, so Brandon stayed home with me for 2 weeks, and then I had a few months off, and that was really nice to just be able to like be home and kind of be in a comfortable space. But every day is different, and I think that, you know, if you've gone through something harder, if you've lost someone that you love, like, grief varies, and you know, you learn about the 5 stages of grief. Garbage. I mean, they all happen, but they don't happen in that order. They kind of just are all over the place, and some days you can be stuck in anger for, you know, a long time, or maybe you feel happy for like a week, and then you're angry for 4 hours. Like, I don't know, it just changes all the time, and it still does, especially with these other losses. But I don't know, it's been really nice to be able to go visit Carter and to talk about him. Like, for me, it's so important that we talk about him, because it's like healing to me, I guess. Because I guess it's kind of the same thing as not closing the nursery door. Like, he's real and he happened, you know, and I don't ever want people like, I don't know, they can hurt my feelings, but I don't want them to ever forget about him because he's so important to me.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I think the hardest part for us is thinking that people are going to forget about him, or that he didn't exist, or he wasn't here. Because, you know, Caitlin obviously carried him the entire time. Like, I felt him kick and we felt him move and we saw the ultrasound. It's like we are aware of everything that he was kind of going through and that he was putting Caitlin through, like physically. But a lot of people weren't there for that, and so like at least on my end, like I'm afraid that people are gonna forget that we went through that experience, that we have had that experience and that history. So I think that's one of our biggest fears is that he will be forgotten, more or less.
People don't know the difference, you know, like the clerk at the grocery store or new people that we meet. Like, unless you see kids with somebody, you just don't assume that they have kids, or you do assume it and then you don't really know. So it's hard that, like, we go out in public and people are just like, oh, it's just a couple, like, how long have they been married, when are they gonna have kids, you know? But like, I don't know, the people that have known everything and like have known us the whole time, or even have known us like since we lost Carter, it's just like, you know, Carter's not their baby. And so it's something that is really easy to just kind of not think about. But like, we really appreciate when people, you know, say his name or say, we've been thinking about you guys, or I don't know, or even just like include me in conversations about like my labor. Thank you for recognizing that I've actually been through it. So that's really nice. But one way that I feel like I've changed is that I'm more empathetic, which I was already super empathetic before, and I really feel other people's emotions, but I feel like I'm that way even more so now. Brandon 2 weeks ago told me that I was cavalier, which is surprising to me. I've gotten really good at kind of like flying by the seat of my pants and not really caring to make a plan, or not being like so high strung and stressed out about things. Like, we got a rock chip in my windshield, and normally before we lost Carter, I probably would have like started crying and just been so stressed about it. But that time I was like, well, I'll just find a Jiffy Lube we can go to and get the chip fixed, and then we got it fixed and then it was fine. And so I think that it's just like I recognize my priorities now. Not my priorities, but I recognize the things that really matter. And to me, our family is all that matters. And so as long as nothing is threatening that, then whatever.
I think the biggest thing for me over the last year is I feel like I've slowed down a little bit, and I've taken more time to appreciate a lot of the little things around me. I don't know, like I've gotten more into taking lots more pictures and videos and really embracing the moments I'm in, rather than always looking forward and thinking about the future. Really, I guess, living in the moment as much as I can, as well as I'm mostly worrying about the present. I've definitely focused less on work, if that counts.
Sorry. Some days I get really tired of being sad all the time, which I think is how we were, especially in the beginning too. Mm-hmm. Like, we were sad a lot, and so when we weren't ready to be sad, we were just like, no, like, not right now. Yeah. But I think that part of the thing is that you're just always sad, and it's like some days you just don't want that to be like your surface level emotion, but it's always there every second of the day. I don't know. I know that experiences like this can really tear people apart, and I've been so grateful for you and for the strength in our marriage that we're just, I mean, like, it's hard, but it's not hard between us. Yeah. Anyway, that's a little bit about how the last year has been. It has been hard, and we've learned a lot of things that we didn't want to learn. And obviously we would only trade all of this if we could have him here. But if this is all we can have of him, then I'll take it. So, but thanks for being here. Thanks for learning about our boy. And we will see you guys later.